Joining us now is Dr. MONCEF SLAOUI, who helps lead Operation Warp Speed, along with our senior health and science reporter, Meg Terrell. Meg, over to you.
Well, thanks so much. And Dr. SLAOUI, thanks for being here. This is just a huge day. And of course, before you became chief advisor to Operation Warp Speed, you spent more than 3 decades developing vaccines in the pharmaceutical industry. So maybe just help put into context, into perspective, what 2 different vaccines with 90% plus efficacy really means in this pandemic.
Well, it is an extraordinary outcome, frankly, to have 2 different vaccines tested in different conditions by 2 different companies, developed independently, yield very similar outcomes. This gives a huge confidence into the data obtained and really suggests that the 90% and more efficacy is true and real. The fact that they have been developed in over a period of less than a year is just incredible. You know, I spent 30 years in the same company, of which 27 was spent developing one singular vaccine against malaria, for instance. And I think the fastest we ever did was 4 or 5 years. So major achievement, part of which, of course, relate to the company's performance, technology, decades of work beforehand, part of which relates to, frankly, the support that Operation Warp Speed has provided. And the operation has been really a visionary approach that the HHS secretary had to put together science, academic, etc., the Department of Defense and industry expertise and experience together in one place and shield them from bureaucracy and help the companies. So up to now, it's been an amazing day. Every Monday like this, I'll take any time.
I know. We'll take a couple more of these, please. You know, a couple questions that I'm hearing from experts today about these vaccines, and we know you don't have the answers yet, but I wonder, you know more about this than almost anybody. How likely is it that these vaccines will provide sterilizing immunity, actually prevent infection, not just disease? And how long do you expect the protection will last?
Well, I think the likelihood that they prevent infection, so provide sterilizing immunity, is significant given the level of efficacy achieved. But remember, these are short-term outcomes, right? These are 4, 5, 6 months trials, and therefore the level of antibodies will wane with time. And I do not think that protection against disease will wane with time. I can explain why. But protection against infection, the sterilizing immunity, may decrease with the waning antibodies. Whenever we encounter the virus, we boost our immune response back at a much, much faster pace than the first time. And that's why I believe protection against disease is there to persist at pretty high or very high levels. Protection against infection, we'll test it. I expect it to be positive, not as high as 95%, but maybe not highly persistent.
Okay, well, that would be good. It's Sarah, Dr. SLAOUI. Thanks for being with us. We just heard in the last half hour or so from President-elect Biden. He was talking about the hopeful news on the vaccine front, but here's what he said. He said, quote, they have this warp speed program to distribute this. If we have to wait, it puts us behind a month or a month and a half. Why? It seems to me that as the rollout of this vaccine is happening, that's exactly when the transition of power is set to be happening in this country. Why has there not been engagement with Biden and his advisors? And what is that going to look like when every day counts here and more than 1,000 Americans are dying every day?
Listen, since day one, our objective has been to go fast and absolutely every day and everywhere. Hour counted, and that's why we are where we are. Our focus is to save American lives and people's life in general. And that's what we'll continue focusing on. We're not going to be distracted by circumstances or context. We're going to continue running as fast as we can, as well as we can, always looking after safety and efficacy of the vaccines. And clearly, we would hope that there is no disruption because of the transition. But this is not for us to call. And frankly, as I said, we want to focus on the job to be done, which is deliver vaccines fast.
Right. Well, I would think that this would help in that effort, but I guess it's up to President Trump. In the meantime, Dr. SLAOUI, the antibody cocktails were meant to be, the antibody drugs from Regeneron and Lilly were meant to be the bridge to the vaccine. And they're here, which is great news, and they have good trial data, and yet the production of them is so limited that I mean, the numbers are just so small in comparison for what we need right now. Why weren't they prioritized more? I know you did give money from Operation Warp Speed for manufacturing and for scaling, but it's just not happening at the levels that we need it right now.
Yeah, listen, I apologize to say this, but Monday morning quarterbacking is always much easier. It's impossible to predict the amount that we needed. And remember, all of this has started 8 months ago, and the speed with which things are going is unheard of. We have done everything possible, Eli Lilly, Regeneron, and the operation to scale up into the manufacturing capacity that we could access and that existed.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.